Evelyn was an incredibly talented sous chef at one of Adelaide's top fine dining restaurants. A few years ago, she voluntarily put her booming career on hold to raise their 2 children. Her husband, Declan, a high-level executive in the banking sector, convinced her that stepping back was the best move for their family. He promised that one day, when the time was right, he would personally help her open her very own dream restaurant. Evelyn genuinely believed in his care and dedication, throwing herself into creating the perfect, cozy home environment. In her rare free time, she tirelessly perfected her signature recipes in a worn, handwritten leather notebook. Cooking wasn't just a hobby for her. It was her absolute passion, a way of expressing her deep love for her family. She had spent years grinding in high-pressure commercial kitchens, earning every single promotion through exhaustion, sweat, and burn scars. She missed the heat of the service and the adrenaline of the dinner rush. But she pushed those feelings down, prioritizing her husband's corporate ascent. When the kids finally got a bit older, she decided it was time to step back into the hospitality game. She secretly started sending out her impressive resume for head chef positions at prestigious local venues. But time and time again, she was met with cold, deafening silence or standard, automated rejection letters. This constant rejection slowly chipped away at her professional confidence, making her feel like the industry had simply moved on without her. Declan would sit with her every evening, hugging her tight and comforting her with sweet, reassuring words. He'd tell her that the hospitality scene is just notoriously brutal to mums returning from maternity leave, and that it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, he started working back late more and more often, blaming complex corporate mergers and endless board meetings in the CBD. Evelyn didn't doubt a single word he said, fully blaming herself for her professional irrelevance. She implicitly trusted the man she considered her absolute rock and the main provider for their family. She viewed their marriage as a flawless partnership, where his financial expertise perfectly balanced her creative soul. She was more than happy to let him manage all their finances and investments, believing he had their best interests at heart. In her straightforward, honest mindset, a husband who worked that hard would never harbor a dark, manipulative secret. She continued to cook him gourmet dinners every night, pouring her shattered culinary dreams into the meals she served him. Her pure, unwavering loyalty made her completely blind to the fact that her beloved husband was actively and intentionally destroying her life from the inside out. That warm Sunday morning started with Declan playing the doting dad, getting the kids ready for a long day trip to the wildlife park. "Darling, you look so exhausted from dealing with all these constant restaurant rejections," he said with fake, dripping sympathy, pouring himself a coffee. "Maybe you just need to accept that the fine dining world demands too much time, and your true calling is right here in our beautiful home," he added, gently kissing the top of her head. "But that executive chef from Sydney specifically asked for my portfolio. I just don't understand why he didn't even reply." Evelyn sighed bitterly, leaning heavily against the kitchen island. "The hospitality industry is just ruthless to mums returning to the workforce, sunshine. Just relax and let me be our sole provider," Declan answered in a velvety, soothing voice. "You are so incredibly understanding. Thank you for supporting me through this massive rough patch." She thanked him genuinely, helping him zip up their son's jacket. "Get some rest, my love. We won't be back until tonight," he called out cheerfully from the doorway, ushering the kids out. In his rush, Declan accidentally left his smartwatch sitting on the charging dock right on the kitchen bench. Evelyn was just wiping down the marble countertop with a damp cloth when the screen of the forgotten gadget suddenly lit up with a bright notification. A short message from an unknown commercial broker read, "The lease agreement for the Barossa venue is officially signed." A second notification immediately followed. "Chloe is absolutely thrilled with the floor plan, waiting for the remainder of the funds to clear by Monday." Evelyn's heart violently seized with an icy, terrifying confusion that completely stole her breath. "What Barossa lease? And who the hell is Chloe?" she whispered aloud, feeling her hands betray her and start to tremble. Without wasting a single second, she immediately grabbed their synced family iPad to thoroughly dig into his work emails. In his hidden, password-protected folders, she didn't just find the contracts for a trendy new cafe in the famous Barossa Valley wine region. Hiding in those folders was the genuine monstrous reason behind all her professional failures and inexplicable career rejections. It turned out Declan had systematically hacked into her personal email account a long time ago. He had been cold-bloodedly intercepting and deleting incoming interview invitations from some of the best restaurants in Adelaide. This two-faced manipulator had been replying to renowned executive chefs on her behalf, stating that she was no longer interested in the position and was choosing to focus on her family. He intentionally and methodically destroyed her professional self-esteem just to keep her permanently trapped as his convenient domestic servant. But the most devastating blow came from the attached financial statements and loan agreements. Using funds illegally drawn against the equity of their family home, he was buying a fully fitted hospitality business for his 22-year-old mistress. This Chloe, as the emails revealed, was just a basic barista working at a coffee shop near his corporate office in the CBD. "She'll be the face of the venue, and I'll be the silent partner pulling the strings," Declan bragged to his lawyer in one of the emails. "But what about a menu for a high-end place like this?" the lawyer asked in a reply. "Don't worry, I took my wife's old recipe book. We'll just retype them and claim them as Chloe's original creations," her husband replied with sickening cynicism. Evelyn remembered how, a couple of weeks ago, he had taken her cherished handwritten recipe book, claiming he wanted to scan it to preserve it for the future. This shameless hypocrite hadn't just stolen her brilliant future, he had stolen her unique, painstakingly perfected recipes. He handed her life's work over to a young girl so she could play the role of a genius head chef, all funded by his lawful wife's home equity. Every single word she read hammered a rusty nail into the coffin of her happy, trusting marriage. Standing in the middle of her pristine kitchen, Evelyn physically felt her boundless love for her husband mutate into crystal-clear, scorching hatred. The shock of realizing that her own husband had not only been cheating on her, but had cold-bloodedly sabotaged her entire life nearly drove Evelyn insane. In the first few minutes after reading those monstrous emails, she wanted nothing more than to scream at the top of her lungs and completely trash their perfect, sparkling clean kitchen. The man whose arms she had sought comfort in after every fake job rejection turned out to be her ultimate, most ruthless executioner. He had soaked up her tears and despair, stroking her hair every night, while methodically obliterating her brilliant career as a chef. The realization that Declan hadn't just found a young mistress, but had actively stolen her identity, her dream, and her unique signature recipes, burned worse than spitting hot cooking oil. This arrogant little barista was about to receive glowing reviews from Adelaide's top food critics for dishes that Evelyn had created during sleepless nights standing at her own stove. Bitter tears of betrayal blurred her vision. But her years of severe conditioning in professional kitchens, where you never panic during a brutal dinner rush, quickly overpowered her weakness. Evelyn wiped her wet face with the back of her hand, feeling her crushed heart rapidly encase itself in an impenetrable, icy shell. She had absolutely no intention of becoming the convenient, weeping victim in her manipulative husband's twisted game. Instead of throwing a massive, plate-smashing tantrum when Declan returned from the wildlife park, she forced herself to masterfully play the role of the broken, obedient housewife. That very evening, she cooked him a flawless dinner, politely asked about his day with the kids, and forced herself to smile genuinely, even though a destructive hurricane was raging inside her. Every affectionate word she forced out of her mouth took an unbelievable amount of effort, but she knew she had to lull him into a false sense of security for the payback to work. First thing Monday morning, the second her husband left for his glass-walled CBD office, Evelyn headed straight to the best commercial lawyer in Adelaide. She sat in a stiff leather chair across from a grey-haired solicitor, laying out a thick folder filled with printouts of the intercepted emails, credit agreements, and scans of her stolen recipes. Her voice sounded completely flat and emotionless, as if she were reading out the prep list for a complex dish rather than the chronicle of her destroyed marriage. The experienced lawyer carefully reviewed the paperwork, and suddenly a wide, predatory smile spread across his face, the look of a professional anticipating a spectacular victory. He happily informed a stunned Evelyn that Declan, the arrogant banker, had made one fatal, absolutely unforgivable legal error in his shady dealings. because he had secretly drawn down on the equity of their jointly owned family home to secure the business loan for this trendy Barossa venue. The new holding company automatically became their joint, undivided marital property. State law was crystal clear. Evelyn, as the lawful spouse and co-owner of the leveraged real estate, had the absolute, undeniable right to claim a controlling stake in the business. This news hit her like a massive breath of fresh air, pulling her back to life after drowning in the dark. It turned out that Declan, completely without realizing it, had used her own money to buy her the exact restaurant she had dreamed of all these difficult years. Her revenge promised to be the most exquisite, flawless dish she had ever served in her entire life. Over the next 3 weeks, in the strictest of secrecy from her husband, she secured all the necessary court injunctions and prepared lawsuits for financial and psychological abuse. Her lawyer helped her legally transfer the operational management of the business directly into her name, completely stripping Declan of any commercial decision-making power. She also officially copyrighted every single stolen recipe, ensuring that the mistress would never again dare to pass them off as her own culinary masterpieces. Declan came home every evening, bragging about his corporate successes, entirely oblivious to the fact that his new financial empire already belonged exclusively to his quiet, stay-at-home wife. Evelyn patiently waited for the venue's grand opening day, neatly crossing off the dates on the calendar. She was planning to rock up to this festival of vanity not as a scorned, cheated wife, but as the rightful, ruthless owner. Those two naively thought they had stolen her destiny, but in reality, they had merely built the perfect stage for her spectacular triumph. The hospitality industry doesn't forgive the weak, and Evelyn was more than ready to show this city who the real head chef actually was. The grand opening of the restaurant in the picturesque Barossa Valley drew dozens of respected local food critics, popular food bloggers, and Declan's influential corporate mates. He had personally invited the absolute elite of Adelaide just to pompously show off his new status as a highly successful restaurateur and investor. The venue was overflowing with expensive floral arrangements, waitstaff were circulating with gourmet canapes, and camera flashes illuminated the happy faces of the hosts. A young, glowing Chloe stood dead center in the room, holding a glass of premium champagne, soaking up the completely unearned media attention. With a radiant smile, she prepared to deliver a touching speech about how she had spent sleepless nights developing this unique signature menu with the massive support of her loving man. At that exact moment, the heavy glass doors of the venue swung open dramatically, causing the guests to turn around in surprise at the noise. Walking in with a confident, undeniably regal stride was Evelyn, dressed in an immaculate, sharp business suit, flanked by her top-tier lawyer and a court sheriff. Declan, spotting the lawful wife he had left at home resting just an hour ago, instantly went ghost white, and the champagne glass in his hand began to tremble violently. Evelyn calmly and with absolute dignity walked right up to the microphone, politely apologizing to the food critics for a minor technical delay in the evening's schedule. Following her subtle nod, the lawyer hooked his tablet up to the projector, and dry legal documents suddenly flashed across the cafe's massive plasma screens. With ice-cold composure, Evelyn displayed copies of those intercepted emails where her husband had ruthlessly declined prestigious job offers in her name, deliberately destroying her career. The room collectively gasped as the screens then displayed scanned, handwritten pages from her personal recipe book dated several years prior. The dishes you are all enjoying tonight were created by me in my home kitchen, while my husband was busy convincing me I was professionally worthless, she announced loudly and with crystal clarity into the microphone. Right in front of the shocked, speechless crowd, Evelyn walked up to a paralyzed, terrified Declan and handed him a thick folder containing divorce papers and a massive lawsuit for financial abuse. She then turned to Chloe, who was now crying and smearing her expensive mascara, and handed her an official notice of her immediate termination from the role of fake venue manager. Since this restaurant was purchased using the equity of my family home, the courts have officially recognized me as the sole, lawful owner of this business, Evelyn added with an icy, victorious smile. The journalists and food bloggers instantly whipped out their phones, realizing they were witnessing the most spectacular, scandalous hospitality takedown of the year in Adelaide. Declan's corporate mates turned away from him in sheer, undisguised disgust, realizing that this genius investor was nothing but a cowardly fraud who had spent years stealing from his own wife. Chloe ran out of the venue in a hysterical, sobbing mess, her heels clicking loudly against the pavement, while Declan dragged himself out right behind her. Having permanently lost his reputation, someone else's money, and his bright future. Leaving her disgraced husband outside to deal with the hungry, sensation-seeking reporters, Evelyn confidently stepped back up to the microphone. With a genuine, bright smile, she announced to the guests that starting tomorrow, she would personally be taking over the kitchen as head chef, finally claiming the exact restaurant she had always dreamed of. Evelyn gestured for the critics to continue their tasting, feeling the heavy, suffocating chains of someone else's lies and manipulation permanently fall from her shoulders. She had taken back her name and her talent, proving to the entire world that a true master can always turn the most bitter betrayal into a dish for their own spectacular triumph. What do you guys reckon about this payback? Was this public, presentation-style revenge too brutal? Or did Declan get exactly what he deserved for years of psychological abuse? Make sure you drop your honest opinions down in the comments. We absolutely love hearing your take on this. And of course, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel, because we've got plenty more gripping, justice-served true stories coming your way.